Hey there, Smoke D coming at you with another episode of Barbecue Buyer's Guide, this time on lever action charcoal grills. And the lever action just means that the fire grate is moved up and down by means of a lever, which you'll see those in a second when we get into features. The other two methods for raising and lowering a fire in grills of various kinds is either to have sort of a basket method on various height level shelves, or a wheel that you turn is also pretty common. Generally, well, it's in a lot of different grills, but there's stainless steel charcoal grills that use the wheel method, and I did an episode on that, which I'll link above if you want to check that one out. But let's see about these lever action ones. Now, here I have some chapter times. If you want to skip ahead, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support. And first off, we have maps, which I like to show people just so they'll understand a little bit better what the shipping expenses might be like in relationship to themselves. First, we have Yoder Smokers, and they're out in Hutchinson, Kansas. Second, we have BBQ Grillz over in Elm City, North Carolina, which is in the Raleigh-Durham area. And then we have Houston area builders, starting with Pitts and Spitz, which is closest to downtown Houston, then Pitmaker up in Humble, Texas, and lastly, Lone Star Grills out near Conroe. And here we are, starting with BBQ Grillz. Some of you may remember them from my pig cooker episode, which I'll also link above in case you want to check that out. The thing of the matter is that this grill, the 36x22 heavy-duty charcoal and wood patio grill, looks a good bit like the pig cookers that they sell. Here's a picture of one of their pig cookers I took at Rodney Scott's restaurant down in Charleston, South Carolina. When it comes to pig cookers, you might think of them as maybe the number one builder out in the Carolinas. So let's look at this smaller grill that they made. Now, the first thing we notice is it has a single cooking grate, just like their pig cookers. There's also that raisable fire grate and an ash catch underneath. Over to the top left, we see a feature that none of the other pits in this episode have: a windshield for the air intake that disperses the air in the chamber in a pattern, which I suppose would give you the most air at the top when you've raised the fire to sear on high heat. So it's kind of a T-shaped there. On top of the hood, we have twin stacks, which will allow some control over the airflow through the chamber as well. And now, with this second slide, we really get to see the lever and the 6 different positions you can set for the height of the fire tray. You can also see the piston supports for the lid, and this may be the only grill that has that feature, making it easy to pop the top on this thing. And lastly, we see the hourglass air intakes that feed air into that cavity of the inner shield that we saw from the previous slide. And here we now have the upgrades, and there's only 2. There's an A-frame indirect cooking hood, which is just like the ones that they sell in their pig cookers, that catches some of that radiant heat from the coals to produce cooler temperatures on the grate, allowing for some indirect cooking and some of that grease from the top grates not to hit the fire and to roll off down to the sides. So that's only $40, and I can't see why anyone who bought this grill wouldn't get that option for just $40 extra. Now, the second option is a side burner that's $400 more on the price. There was a page for this option, but I couldn't pull it up, so you might need to check with BBQ Grills to make sure that they still offer that side burner. And now we're on to Pitmaker. They're a company that puts a lot of stock into holding in as much heat as possible, which is why these Grill-Meister grills are double walled on 3 sides. We have the 30-inch version for $2,695. The next in price is the Carbon-Q on the other side of the screen for $2,895. Lastly, the 48-inch Grill-Meister is $3,295. And here we see some of the Grill-Meister's features. There's a roll-top stainless hood, which is a feature I generally only ever see on Pits and Spits. And I believe the Pits and Spits company used to have a patent on it. Maybe the patent has expired, or maybe Pitmaker got around it somehow. I'm not sure. Anyway, there are two grates and a good bit of headroom in here, 17 inches from the bottom grate to the top of the hood. There's a sturdy fire rack there in the bottom, the lower chamber. And there at the very bottom of the pit body is a pull-out ash and grease catch tray. Now, if you look at the bottom right of the slide, I have the first picture of the air intake, which is a number of small circles along the bottom of the body. And here in this slide, you can see a little more precisely where they're located under the fire door. You also see the lever and 6 positions there to the right. The top exhaust can be seen pictured there to the top left in what looks to be an all stainless model. Nevertheless, you can see that there's no real damper there at all, and I would almost call this a cooker, as in equipment that is already calibrated to cook the way it should without any user inputs, kind of like my pit barrel cooker. Lastly, we have a locking front caster. And now we're going to take a look at the Carbon-Q. Supposedly, this one is really good at cooking chicken, which I suppose a lot of people are using grills like this in competitions for their chicken cooking. There isn't much about this cooker on the internet in general, so pretty much all that I could find was just on the Pitmaker page for it. But the first noticeable difference from the Grill-Meister are the stainless stack on top. So a very different exhaust system there, and one that we're a little bit more used to, especially in offset style smokers. It has also, it looks to be a sliding damper for the firebox in the shape of the letters of the word Pitmaker there on the firebox door itself. This would give you a lot more control for the airflow. To accommodate the stack, the hood is pared down to be just the front of the box. There was a question about there being a baffle inside, perhaps, to make it cook more indirectly, but I couldn't find any pictures of such a baffle. And like I said before, this one page is all that I could find in the entire internet on the Carbon-Q. So if you do know about a baffle in there, tell us about it down in the comments. And now we have some upgrades, most of which are not pictured. I frequently come across a problem wherein there are only pictures of upgraded pits and no pictures of just the standard features. Pitmaker, however, has given me somewhat the opposite problem. Their page has no pictures, for example, of the stainless slide-on preparation table for $135. There's fully stainless options for the Grill-Meister, $4,400 for the 30-inch, $5,600 for the 48-inch, then $650 and $750 for a stainless steel rotisserie, respectively, for both of those sizes. The Carbon-Q can come insulated for $4,395 and also has a fully stainless option that you can find on their website or talking to the company itself. And now we're on to Yoder Smokers. They have two sizes of their grill. The 24x36 flat top charcoal grill for $2,699 and a 48-inch version for $2,949. And one unique feature of this grill is the double hinged hood, so you can open it halfway in order to manipulate the food without losing all of the heat in the chamber or lifting it all the way up to cook with no hood. We have our first stainless steel front shelf there, a pull bar on the side. It kind of looks like you could put the lever mechanism and pull bar on either side you want, especially with how they have the lever catches on either side. I'm not sure if you specify which side you want the builders to install it on, or you install it yourself. So the company would have to tell you that. The lever for the raising mechanism can be locked in the bottom position with this little wraparound lock that you pin, presumably used when transporting it. There are swivel air intakes near the bottom with stainless cool touch handles. There's a utility rack as well, and 10-inch casters. And those 10 inches are going to make moving this thing around really easy. The larger the wheel is, the more force you apply, the more it's going to be multiplied, making for very easy transportation with this pit around either your patio or even on, some uneven ground. It's going to do a lot better. There is a locking and swiveling wheel set on the left-hand side there. Lastly, on this slide, we see the pull-out ash and grease tray. Very handy indeed. Here, we have the top of the hood where you see the exhaust dampers with the stainless cool touch handles, the hinges, and the door catch. Altogether, this is a very attractive looking grill. Now, for the upgrades. You can get V-shaped grates like those generally available on Santa Maria style grills, and those would be $249 for the 36-inch model or $269 for the 48-inch model. There's a fitted cover for $299. That's for either size. Also, a stainless steel griddle for $419 and a rotisserie kit for $295. Lastly, there are models that upgrade to a competition cart, which provides a much sturdier base and rings for tie down if you're going to transport this thing around a whole lot. This is an extra $700 for the 36-inch model and an extra $650 for the 48-inch model. Why less for the 48? I don't know. And now, here, we're going to take a look at Pits and Spits, one of the oldest companies still making barbecue pits. Their flat top adjustable charcoal grill is $2,899.99. And their regular, larger adjustable charcoal grill is $3,349.99. And here we'll look at the regular first. Pits and Spits is known for using wooden handles, and you can see one at the top there attached to their signature stainless roll top lid. There's a second level grate, also 2 pull handles for maneuvering the pit around. You can see the lever action raising mechanism to the right, and on the firebox doors, their signature spin wheel air dampers. Now, on this page, you will see several features that would be upgrades on other pits that are actually standard for the Pits and Spits. The 8-inch casters, for instance, are an upgrade for the Lone Star Grills pit. We'll see in a minute. Also, the laser cut stainless cooking grates come standard here on Pits and Spits, but are also an upgrade on the Lone Star Grills. They also include a propane log lighter, and I do believe this is the only log lighter in this entire episode. You can see that cylinder there at the bottom of the chamber. You can connect it with a gas line, light it, and set your fire rack on top of it with your fuel, and you'll be fully lit within a few minutes. And it comes standard. Do you believe that? And here I want to make note that the flat top version is the same in every single way to the regular, except that it has no second level or roll top lid and has a much smaller lid that you see pictured there. And now for the upgrades. There are many fewer here, in part because so much is included standard. There is a griddle made specifically for this grill, and it's $199.99 if you'd like to purchase that. I couldn't find a cover for this pit, but since they have covers for other pits, I imagine you could contact the company and inquire about that possibility. And now, on to the last grill for this episode, The Lone Star Grillz 24x48 adjustable charcoal grill and smoker, which has a base price of $3,795. And note that you can get a built-in version for $300 cheaper if you are making an outdoor kitchen. Now, one of the things that likely makes that built-in version possible is that Lone Star Grills encloses the lever, but you can see it there with seven different positions, which may be the most of any on this show. And the one thing that really sets this grill apart from the others is that it has two separate and walled off fire chambers with separate platforms. Smoking Dad Barbecue recently made a video about this pit and used it as an offset smoker, insofar as that he set his fire all the way on one side, and the wall in the middle can sort of act like a scoop baffle so that you get a top-down cooking effect on the opposite side. I also want to mention that you can't really see them, but there are two removable ash pans at the bottoms of these two fire chambers as well. And here you see that you have a stainless steel hood with bow tie exhaust dampers on either side. There's a second level grate as well as two separate bottom grates that you can take out independently of one another. The fire doors are fold down instead of fold out, again helping with the lever design and allowing the pit to have the built-in model. There's a storage shelf on the bottom if you do have the cart model, and 5-inch casters that come standard. And now for the upgrades, and as per usual, Lone Star Grills is known for having a lot of them. The stainless laser cut grates that came standard on the pits and spits are $495 extra. The 8-inch casters that pits and spits also had are $175 extra. And if you want to get really mobile, the wagon wheels are $895. The pull bar, which I think really should come standard with the cart model, is an extra $59.95. The fold-down stainless side table is $295. The fitted Sunbrella cover is $369. And as you can tell, the picture there is not correct. That's an offset smoker pictured. But I'm sure that they'll send you the right cover. The fire management basket, which I use quite a bit with my El Patron, is $89.95. I really do appreciate that piece of hardware. A regular charcoal basket can be bought for $35. If you want both sides of the chamber to have their own temperature gauge, it is an extra $95. And that is it for features, and that brings us to charts. So, first off, we have price, which starts with the BQ grills at $2,200 and goes on up to the Lone Star grills at the top for $3,795. I ordered the builders by their cheapest offerings, but when you pepper in their more expensive ones, you can really see how they all line up here. So take a second to look at these differences. Now, here in this chart, we have the area of the main grate in inches squared, and I'd like to do this separate from all the inches just because it gives you a little bit better idea of the space of the grill in the depth and width. The smallest is going to be the Carbon-Q, followed by the Grill-Meister 30, then the BQ grills, the two pits and spits, which actually have the same space on the bottom level grate, then the Yoder 36, the Lone Star grills 24x48, the Grill-Meister 48, and lastly, the Yoder 48. And as you may have noticed, I have asterisks on both of the Yoder's bars in this chart. And the thing about it is that if you go to Yoder's website and look at how many square inches they claim these pits have, you'll see that their numbers are between 175 inches higher than the numbers I have here. And let me say that this is a problem that I have run into with Yoder several times before. If you're a longtime watcher of this channel, you may have heard me rant about this. But the thing is that they tell you on their website what the dimensions of their grates are. So you can actually do the math for how many square inches these grates should be. And they don't match up with how many square inches they claim the pit has. How do they get these other numbers? I really don't know. And this time, there's not even really much surrounding room around the grates that they could possibly say, well, this is where those extra inches are coming from. Who knows? Maybe they measure for the dimensions from outside the pit. At any rate, I should mention here that maybe these other companies have also fudged the numbers and we just don't know because they don't give us the actual grate dimensions. Now, some of them did, and several of them I am using their grate dimensions for these numbers, but I decided that I'm also going to use Yoder's grate dimensions instead of the ones that they claim on there. And so that's just a disclaimer of why these numbers are the way that they are. Anyway, here we have all the inches now with the various second level grates added in. Now, the BQ Grillz is at the bottom now. The Pits and Spits Flattop is next. The Yoder 36, the Carbon-Q, the Yoder 48, the Grill-Meister 30, the Pits and Spits Adjustable, the Lone Star Grills, and the pit with the most cooking space in overall inches is the Grill-Meister 48. Now, if we're comparing the cost to the area of the main grate, and the main grate only, we get a dollar per square inch number. It's important, though, to remember that these numbers don't really take into account particular features in these grills. But the Yoder 48 comes out looking the best here, then the Grill-Meister 48, then the BQ Grillz, the Yoder 36, the Pits and Spits Flattop, the Grill-Meister 30, the Lone Star Grills, the Pits and Spits Adjustable, and the Carbon-Q lastly. It might be notable how well the Grill-Meister 48 does on this chart despite having the cost put in of the second level grate. It almost takes the top spot. And now, here we have the dollar per inches squared for all inches, including the second level, and the Grill-Meister 48 now easily takes the top spot. Then the Grill-Meister 30 after that, then the Lone Star Grills, the Yoder 48, the Pits and Spits Adjustable, the Carbon-Q, the BQ Grillz, the Yoder 36, and lastly, the Pits and Spits Flattop. And again, let me remind you one more time that these features aren't well reflected in these numbers. The Pits and Spits Flattop, for instance, would look much better on this chart without the standard premium features it has if instead you were offered them as upgrades and it had a lower base price in comparison. And for this last chart, I have body metal thickness. I won't go into the science of it, but thicker metal helps heat retention and to even out heat and stabilize it during a cook once the pit is warmed up. The first 5 pits here have 12 gauge steel. The Carbon-Q has 1/8 inch thick steel, and the Lone Star Grillz has 10 gauge steel. Just so you know, the smaller the gauge number, the thicker the steel. Most of these grills, for instance, have thinner 14 gauge steel in the lid, including the Lone Star Grills, the Yoder, and the BQ Grillz. Now, the Grill-Meister grills, as mentioned before, are special in that they have an air gap double wall on 3 sides for even better heat retention. I'm not sure how thick those walls are, though. So now I've gone over all of that information, and it's time for me to give my thoughts. I like the BQ Grillz, and I know I might be biased because I live in North Carolina, where this grill is made, but I like that. It looks like a pig cooker. I like that. The windshield is a good idea, and if you're not going to be grilling for huge crowds, this grill will probably do you as a backyard cook just fine. And at the cheapest price in this episode, maybe that's going to hit your budget just right. The Pitmakers also seem to have a really good value in dollar per square inch for cooking real estate. They likely have really good heat retention, but there are a few things I don't like about them, particularly myself. Firstly, I think they're the ugliest pits in this episode, and you may not care about that, or maybe you disagree. Maybe you think they're beautiful. I don't know. And I would completely understand if you didn't care. But there it is. There it is. Secondly, I'm not a huge fan of the dot-sized air intakes, which maybe has to do with the great lengths that this pit maker is going for in making superior heat retention. It's my opinion that they're overdoing it, and the decreased airflow on this pit, maybe more than any of the others, might just restrict you into using only charcoal instead of what I would want to do, which is a whole wood fire. So I would find that very limiting because whole wood fires need more oxygen than just charcoal. For me, this is the one maker that I would probably take a pass on out of all of these. But maybe it is right for you. Now, I do like the Yoders. Despite all the grief I give Yoder for their somewhat deceptive numbers, I like it because it's a good design. And up there with the BQ grills, it's one of the most eye-catching pits in this episode. Pits and Spits next, I really admire for the premium features they add standard to their pits. They're just going to give you what's the best without any consideration for all that other stuff. I like the log lighter. I think people who get these Pits and Spits will be extremely happy with their purchase. And that leaves us lastly with the Lone Star grills. Its best feature is probably that it has the separate fireboxes and the ability to use it sort of like an offset. So the question then becomes, is this the one do-it-all pit? You just get this one and you'll be set. And I think for some people that could be the case. I recently made an episode including a version of this pit that has a pellet hopper connected to one of its fire chambers. And if you want to see that, I'll link it above. And I think that pit was also trying to be a do-it-all pit. But you could do without that pellet hopper and just use this and maybe still have your do-it-all pit. I think, if you're not trying to make food for extremely large crowds, you could get at least one, maybe two briskets going on that other side for that offset style smoking mode. Besides that, I really like that you can see the fire through the bow tie intake dampers. And I know that's a small thing. I know it's not actually important, but I like it. I like to be able to see my fire. And I think of all these grills, it may be the only one that really gives you a good look at your fire. What can I say? That's me. I like to see my fire. Truthfully, though, if I had to pick any one of these, I'm not sure which one I'd pick. Except I know which one I wouldn't. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you have some thoughts, please share those down in the comments below. Am I totally wrong about Pitmaker's pits? Can you use a full wood fire in there? Tell me out. Tell me the truth. Or maybe you own some of these pits. Leave your review down in the comments as well. Help out your fellow barbecue brothers. That's all for this time, and as always, go get your smoke on, y'all.